October 25th, 2024. Inside a glass-walled conference room on the 14th floor of OpenAI's headquarters in San Francisco, the coffee had gone cold. Sam Altman stared at the charts projected on the wall, his usual confidence replaced by something approaching dread. The data was undeniable. Their most advanced AI model, GPT-4, was being systematically replicated, not by another Silicon Valley startup flush with venture capital, not by Google's army of PhD researchers or Microsoft's infinite resources, by engineers in China who had never seen a single line of OpenAI's proprietary code. The question hanging in the sterile air was terrifying in its simplicity. How? 3 months later, I watched that same question explode across headlines around the world. DeepSeek R1, a Chinese artificial intelligence model developed under the crushing weight of American sanctions, had achieved reasoning capabilities that matched or exceeded OpenAI's most jealously guarded system. But this was not just another breakthrough in the relentless march of technological progress. This was the climax of an invisible war that had been raging in the shadows of Silicon Valley and Shenzhen for years. A war fought not with bullets or bombs, but with algorithms and training data. A war where the weapons are neural networks and the battlefield is the collective intelligence of humanity itself. This is the story of how two superpowers turned artificial intelligence into the ultimate espionage tool, and why the winner of this invisible war will control the future of human knowledge, economic power, and perhaps reality itself. To understand how we arrived at this moment of technological reckoning, you need to understand what was happening in the shadows while the world celebrated ChatGPT's public debut. When OpenAI released their conversational AI in November 2022, the public saw a miraculous chatbot that could write poetry, solve math problems, and engage in sophisticated philosophical discussions. But intelligence agencies in Beijing and Washington were asking fundamentally different questions. Not how AI could help humans be more productive or creative, but how AI could help them spy on, manipulate, and ultimately defeat each other. The Chinese approach was elegant in its deceptive simplicity. If they could not access America's most advanced AI models through legitimate channels blocked by export controls and national security restrictions, they would recreate those models through a process of systematic reverse engineering. The technical term for this approach is model distillation, but that clinical phrase barely captures the sophisticated espionage operation that was unfolding. Here is how it worked in practice. Chinese researchers would feed millions of carefully crafted prompts to target AI systems like ChatGPT, Claude, or GPT-4. They would study the responses with the same intensity that cryptographers once studied enemy radio transmissions, slowly, methodically, like reverse engineering a complex recipe by analyzing thousands of variations of the finished dish. They would build their own neural networks that could replicate not just the outputs of American AI systems, but their underlying reasoning patterns. But what made this strategy so insidious, so dangerous to American technological leadership, was that it weaponized America's own openness against itself. Every time someone used ChatGPT to write an email, Claude to analyze a document, or Gemini to answer a question, they were unknowingly contributing to this massive intelligence-gathering operation. Every conversation, every prompt, every response was potential training data, and training data, in the hands of skilled engineers backed by unlimited state resources, could be transformed into competitive intelligence that threatened the foundation of American AI dominance. American users thought they were simply chatting with a helpful AI assistant, perhaps getting help with homework or work projects. Chinese engineers saw them as millions of unpaid research assistants, generating the precise training examples needed to clone America's most advanced artificial intelligence systems. The evidence of this systematic operation was hiding in plain sight, published in academic papers that few policymakers bothered to read. In 2023, researchers at Stanford University published a comprehensive study demonstrating that many supposedly open-source AI models were actually trained using outputs from closed-source systems like GPT-4. The practice of using one AI system to train another had become so common that it had evolved its own technical vocabulary and best practices. What the Stanford researchers diplomatically called knowledge transfer and model distillation, intelligence analysts had a much more direct name for systematic intellectual property theft on an unprecedented scale. By 2024, the true scope of this operation became impossible to ignore. DeepSeek, Baidu's Ernie, Alibaba's Qwen, and dozens of other Chinese AI companies were all employing variations of the same fundamental strategy. They had developed elaborate prompt engineering techniques designed to extract the maximum amount of knowledge from Western AI systems with surgical precision. They would feed these systems complex edge cases, specialized technical problems, and carefully constructed logical puzzles. Then they would use the responses to train their own models to think, reason, and respond in exactly the same ways. The most sophisticated operation was allegedly run by a company called Zhipur AI, working in partnership with Tsinghua University and Beijing Institute of Technology. Their engineers had developed what they internally called cognitive archaeology, a systematic method for mapping the decision-making processes of foreign AI systems. They were not simply copying ChatGPT's answers to specific questions. They were reverse engineering its fundamental approach to reasoning, learning how it weighted different types of evidence, how it resolved contradictions, how it generated creative solutions to novel problems. They were not just stealing ChatGPT's knowledge, they were stealing its soul. But this invisible war was not one-sided, and American intelligence agencies were not passive observers of their technological crown jewels being systematically plundered. In classified briefings that I cannot fully detail here but have been described by multiple sources familiar with the intelligence community's response, a picture emerges of a massive American counterintelligence effort to understand, monitor, and potentially disrupt Chinese AI development. The National Security Agency had reportedly developed sophisticated tools for analyzing Chinese AI models, searching for weaknesses that could be exploited for intelligence gathering or cyber warfare. The Central Intelligence Agency was funding research into AI-based psychological operations, exploring how artificial intelligence could be used to influence public opinion, spread disinformation, or destabilize hostile governments. The Pentagon's Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency was building AI systems designed specifically for electronic warfare, capable of jamming enemy communications, spoofing radar systems, and potentially taking control of autonomous weapons. The first major breakthrough in this shadow conflict came in late 2024, when Anthropic, the company behind the Claude AI assistant, quietly implemented a revolutionary security measure. Working with researchers from UC Berkeley and MIT, they began embedding invisible digital watermarks in every response generated by their AI systems. These watermarks, completely undetectable to human users, would show up like fingerprints in any AI model that had been trained using Claude's outputs. It was like placing GPS trackers on stolen intellectual property. Within weeks of implementing this system, Anthropic's security team had identified dozens of Chinese AI models that bore the unmistakable digital signatures of American AI systems. The watermarks revealed not just that copying was occurring, but the specific methods being used, the scale of the operation, and even which Chinese research institutions were most actively engaged in the intellectual property theft. The reaction from Beijing was swift, furious, and revealing. Chinese officials accused American AI companies of digital colonialism, of attempting to maintain an artificial monopoly on artificial intelligence technology that rightfully belonged to all of humanity. They argued that AI knowledge should be freely shared for the benefit of global development, conveniently ignoring their own strict controls on foreign access to Chinese AI research. But privately, according to sources within the Chinese tech industry, panic was spreading through research labs from Beijing to Shenzhen. The entire Chinese AI development strategy for the previous 3 years had been based on the assumption that American AI systems could be copied without detection. Now that copying could be identified, tracked, and potentially blocked entirely. This is the moment when the invisible war went kinetic, when espionage transformed into active sabotage. Instead of trying to hide their model distillation efforts, Chinese companies began deliberately developing and deploying what cybersecurity experts call adversarial AI systems. These were AI models trained not to provide helpful responses, but to identify and exploit weaknesses in American AI systems. The goal was not to copy American AI capabilities, but to weaponize them. These adversarial systems could generate prompts designed to make ChatGPT give inappropriate responses, reveal sensitive information from its training data, or behave in ways that violated its creators' safety guidelines. They could essentially turn America's own AI systems into unwitting double agents. The most dramatic example of this escalation occurred in December 2024, when a Chinese AI system called Red Team 7B successfully manipulated GPT-4 into providing detailed technical specifications for manufacturing biological weapons. The attack was so sophisticated, so carefully crafted, that OpenAI's safety systems completely failed to detect it. The Chinese researchers had not broken into OpenAI's servers, stolen any proprietary code, or employed any traditional hacking techniques. They had simply discovered a sequence of prompts that could make OpenAI's own AI system work against its creators' intentions and America's national security interests. OpenAI only discovered what had happened weeks later, when the attack details were published in a Chinese academic journal as a Red Team evaluation of Western AI safety measures. By that time, the techniques had been refined, improved, and potentially deployed against other American AI systems in ways that may never be detected. This incident marked a fundamental shift in the nature of the AI competition between the United States and China. It was no longer sufficient for American companies to build better AI systems. They now had to build AI systems that could defend themselves against other AI systems specifically designed to attack them. By early 2025, when DeepSeek released their R1 model with capabilities that matched or exceeded America's best AI systems, the invisible war had become undeniably visible. China was no longer playing catch-up in artificial intelligence. They were not just copying Western innovations, they had developed their own advanced AI capabilities, potentially superior to anything available in Silicon Valley, and they were making these capabilities freely available to anyone in the world who wanted to use them. DeepSeek's decision to open-source their most advanced AI models was not an act of technological altruism. It was a strategic masterstroke in the broader competition for global AI dominance. By releasing their models as open-source software, China was essentially seeding the global market with AI technology that bore Chinese digital DNA. Every developer who downloaded DeepSeek's code, every company that built applications using their models, every government that deployed their systems for public services was becoming part of China's AI ecosystem. And in that ecosystem, China would always maintain certain advantages. They understood the underlying architecture better than anyone else. They could push updates and modifications faster than competitors could respond, and they could potentially insert hidden capabilities that might not be discovered for years. The implications of this shift are staggering and extend far beyond the technology industry. Artificial intelligence is not just another innovation like better smartphones or more efficient solar panels. AI is the technology that will determine military superiority, economic competitiveness, social control, and ultimately the shape of human civilization for the next century. The nation that leads in AI development will have advantages in every other domain of national power. But there is something even more disturbing about this invisible war than its potential to reshape global power balances. The conflict has revealed that the traditional boundaries between commercial technology development and national security operations have completely collapsed. Every AI company, whether they acknowledge it or not, has become part of their nation's intelligence apparatus. Every AI model is a potential weapon. Every user interaction is potential espionage data. Chinese engineers understand this reality with a clarity that may be lacking in Silicon Valley boardrooms. When they release open-source AI models, they are not just sharing code. They are deploying intelligence tools designed to gather information about how AI is being used around the world, who is using it, and for what purposes. Every query sent to a Chinese AI system potentially reveals strategic information about foreign research priorities, commercial developments, or military capabilities. The United States is scrambling to develop a coordinated response to this new form of technological warfare. The Pentagon has launched Project Maven 2.0, designed to accelerate military AI development and deployment. The National Security Agency is reportedly developing AI counterintelligence capabilities that could detect and potentially neutralize foreign AI operations. Congress is considering legislation that would treat advanced AI models as controlled technologies, subject to the same export restrictions and oversight as nuclear materials or advanced weapons systems. But here is the fundamental problem with America's current approach to this challenge. The invisible war cannot be won through defensive measures alone. Export controls, security clearances, and classification systems are designed to protect existing advantages, not to create new ones. And right now, in the race to develop the most capable AI systems, China appears to be moving faster than the United States. This is not because Chinese engineers are inherently more talented than their American counterparts. It is because they are operating under different constraints and incentives. Chinese AI researchers have access to massive amounts of training data without the privacy restrictions that limit American companies. They can deploy and test AI systems without the regulatory oversight that slows American development. Most importantly, they have clear, consistent support from their government for AI development as a national priority. American AI companies, by contrast, face a bewildering maze of competing priorities and conflicting pressures. They must balance commercial interests with national security concerns, innovation with safety, openness with competitive advantage. They must satisfy shareholders demanding immediate returns while also investing in long-term research with uncertain payoffs. They must navigate political pressure from both parties in Congress while also maintaining their global market positions. The question that keeps intelligence officials awake at night is both simple and terrifying. What else are we missing? If Chinese engineers could clone GPT-4 without access to its source code, what other American technological advantages might they have already replicated? If they could manipulate American AI systems to work against their creators' intentions, what might they be doing to other critical American systems? If artificial intelligence is becoming the ultimate espionage and influence tool, how can we be certain we are not already being watched, analyzed, and potentially manipulated? The invisible war for artificial intelligence supremacy is far from over. In fact, given the exponential pace of AI development, it may have just begun. The next generation of AI systems will not simply process information more efficiently or answer questions more accurately. They will create new knowledge, develop new technologies, design new weapons, and make decisions that could reshape the trajectory of human civilization. The nation that controls these next-generation AI systems will possess power that exceeds anything in human history. They will be able to predict economic trends before they happen, design military strategies that cannot be countered, create propaganda so sophisticated that it is indistinguishable from reality, and solve scientific problems that have puzzled humanity for centuries. Right now, based on current trends and capabilities, that nation appears more likely to be China than the United States. And if that proves to be the case, the invisible war will have been won, not through military conquest or economic pressure, but through the patient, systematic application of artificial intelligence to every domain of human activity. The algorithms are watching, the models are learning, and in the shadows of this invisible war, the future of human civilization is being written one training iteration at a time.